Hey guys, so you'll have to excuse my exterior. I just woke up, my hair's kind of messy. My tails are doing something, I don't know. Anyway, so I had this talk with my fiance the other night, and I thought that I would kind of try to make a video on what I said during the conversation, because it made me think about a lot of things that I haven't really put in the forefront of my mind recently, and it's always kind of been there, but it made like kind of more in-depth thoughts surface, I guess, and so I wanted to just see if I could elaborate it again into a video. And basically it's just why people choose to be vegan, or why, you should choose to be vegan, or what vegan means. I don't really know. But let me clarify before I even start. I'm not making this to try to convince anybody to be vegan. It's just trying to elaborate and explain what the mentality of being vegan is. So basically, for those who aren't familiar, veganism isn't just a diet, it's a lifestyle choice. And the mentality of being vegan basically means that you don't feel that any one being or any one life or existence, whatever, is more important or less important than another. And so it's basically, you don't feel that the difference between a pig and a dog is anything more than completely arbitrary. And that's why vegans choose not to eat animals or animal products, because if you wouldn't do it to your grandma, don't do it to an animal. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't really take into consideration when they think about people being vegan, is they don't think about the real mentality behind it. They just think about like, oh, well, these crazy vegans are they're hippies and don't want to eat animals because they're stupid. Or they'll say like, oh, well, these vegans think that they're better than everybody else and blah blah blah. The reason people choose to be vegan is because they don't believe that they are better than another species or anybody else. When you think about it fundamentally, what is really the difference between a dog and a pig? One is our best friend, and we love very dearly, and we cherish, and we take care of as if they were our children. The other, we enslave and torture and brutally murder just so that we can have something tasty on our plates. And that line is totally arbitrary. It means absolutely nothing when you think about it fundamentally. Because really, what is the difference between a pig and a dog? They're both exactly the same amount of intelligent. They both can solve puzzles. They can learn words. They can outsmart a 2-year-old child. They can learn tricks. They can learn their names. They have the same kind of body language almost. And they can read human expressions in human body language. They can understand us. When you think about it that way, what is the difference between a dog and a pig? Well, at that point, it's just aesthetic. The difference between a dog and a pig is a dog has paws and a long fluffy tail and a long nose, and a pig is bigger and has a more round head and pointy ears and hoofs and has a flat nose. So at that point, when you really think about it fundamentally, the difference between a dog and a pig is entirely 100% arbitrary. So once you can remove that line between a dog and a pig, once you can remove that arbitrary line, then you can start removing the arbitrary line between humans and pigs. And from there, you can start removing the arbitrary line between cows and cats, and dolphins and monkeys, and all other animals. And you can start to see that really, fundamentally, every living, conscious being on this planet is an existence, and it is a life, and it is a being, and it is a creature that doesn't want to die. Fundamentally, really, really deep down, what is the difference between me and a shrimp? So, that sounds weird, right? Like, what is the difference between me and a shrimp? Well, I'm a human being, and I have complex thoughts, and I think about things abstractly, and I have complex emotions, and I can solve puzzles. A shrimp is barely more than just a plant. A shrimp doesn't have complex thoughts. A shrimp doesn't act on conscious behavior. Instead, a shrimp acts on just natural instinctive impulse. So if something was coming after it, instead of thinking about, should I run away, its legs just impulsively run, just start running. A shrimp doesn't have the same kind of conscious thoughts as we do. So, okay, if a shrimp isn't much more than a plant, then why not eat shrimp? Well, the problem arises when you cross the line between plant and animal. And whether or not that animal is allowed to have complex thoughts and abstract thoughts, that doesn't make it any less of an animal. It still has a central nervous system, it still has a brain, it still has a consciousness. Whether that consciousness is very, very minuscule or as wide as ours, a shrimp still has a consciousness, a central nervous system, and a shrimp can still suffer. At that point still, I mean, what's the difference between a plant and a shrimp? Plants, people said that plants can feel pain, so what's the difference? Okay, think of it this way. If an alien race came to Earth on a spaceship, and they were profoundly more intelligent than us, and they were way, way, way more advanced and complex than we were, and they were able to build a spaceship to get here, we haven't been able to do that yet. But let's say, this alien race, way, way smarter than us, phenomenally, infinitely smarter than us. And they came down to Earth and they looked at us and they said, These are dumb. These things are dumb. They're just bugs. They're just little bugs. I mean, who cares about a little bug? So they start picking off humans one by one and eating them. Now, us humans would go, oh my god, no, don't do that. That's my cousin, that's my brother, that's my mom, that's my best friend. Don't do that. Please don't eat us. We matter. We're important. We're smart too. But in comparison to the aliens in this hypothetical story, we're just as smart as a shrimp or an ant. So to them, we don't matter. We're not smart. We might as well be a blade of grass or a tree. We don't have enough consciousness to be counted as a living being to them. Because we're even dumber than their pet dogs, their alien dogs. So when you think about it in that perspective, I know it's ridiculous. I know it sounds ridiculous thinking, well, aliens are never going to come to Earth. And if they do, who's to say that they're going to be smarter than us? Well, again, this is just a hypothetical situation. And what I'm saying is, what if we switched places with a shrimp? And there was a human coming down to eat our shrimp friends. At that point, suddenly shrimps matter, right? It's just like the guy who was throwing starfish into the ocean. And another guy came up to him and said, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Well, I'm helping out the starfish." And he goes, "Well, that doesn't matter. Why are you doing that? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to anybody. It Guy picked up another starfish and threw it in the ocean and said, "Matter to that one. We got a goldfish from the fair a year ago. And in a way, I feel like we rescued him because he was a fair fish, first of all, and he might as well have just gone to some kid who was just going to keep him in a fishbowl, and he was going to live for 3 months and then die because the kid fed him too much or something. And instead, we took him home and we gave him a really nice tank and we got him some friends, and now he's really happy, and we've had him for over a year now. So, I feel like we did a good thing by rescuing my goldfish, Jack. And it doesn't matter to anyone. It doesn't matter to the entire world. It doesn't matter. It's a goldfish. It doesn't matter to the people that were at the fair. It doesn't matter to the other goldfish that were at the fair. It doesn't matter to the kids that were at the fair. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to the president. But it matters to Jack. It matters to that goldfish that we saved him and we gave him a really nice tank to live in. And now he has a good life. If he died, the entire world would be 100% unaffected. So it doesn't matter. He doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that we saved him. It doesn't matter that we got a goldfish. But it does matter to Jack, because he is that goldfish. And he gets to live that life. So when you think about it that way, you're really, really being selfless. And that's what being vegan is all about. It's about being selfless and putting other animals before yourself and realizing that killing a goldfish or killing a cow or killing a shrimp or killing a mollusk or killing a monkey, it doesn't matter to anybody except for that animal that was killed. And that's what being vegan is all about, is taking a step back and realizing that just because it doesn't matter on a grand scale, doesn't mean it doesn't matter to that animal. And realizing that that animal has feelings just like you do. Just because it doesn't matter to us, just because it seems insignificant to us humans, it doesn't mean that it is insignificant. That is our selfish mammalian brain talking. Because to other species, they think, well, that's the only species that matters. You know, to a lion goes, well, lions are the only species that matter, because I'm a lion. And to a dog, the dog's, well, I matter more because I'm a dog. So it's just instinctive for us to feel that we are the most important species, because when we think that way, we are more able to help each other out and survive better. You know, because if you had a buffalo falling off a cliff and your best friend falling off a cliff, you're going to go for your best friend. And the reason being is because that's a survival instinct for us. It's natural for us to feel that beings of our own species are more important, because that helps our species to survive. And once you realize that that thought process is a primal instinct, then you can start going back to removing the line between a dog and a pig, removing the line between a human and a monkey, removing the line between a dolphin and a mollusk. And you start realizing, well, the mollusk doesn't matter to me, but it matters to the mollusk. A lot of people choose not to go vegan because they think that, well, plants have feelings too. You know, like, well, if plants can feel pain and plants can communicate to each other, then what's the difference between a plant and a cow? So I might as well just eat a cow. Really? I think that that's ridiculous, because plants make things for us to eat from them. Plants have extra leaves and stuff that grow back when they're taken off, so that if somebody came along to eat one of the leaves, it still had more leaves to keep itself alive. If you cut the leg off of a cow, the cow's not going to grow the leg back. It's going to scream in agony for a very long time until probably it just goes into shock and dies. Plants make fruit for us to eat. Apple trees make apples for us to pick off of them, eat them, in hopes that we're going to discard the seeds, and the seeds are going to grow into another apple tree. Animals don't do that. Now you might think like, oh, well, what about chickens that give us eggs? No, the fucking eggs aren't for us. They're not for us. They're not ours. They're for the chickens to reproduce. People aren't coming around stealing our sperm, going, well, you made the sperm for me. No, that's stupid. The whole point of being vegan is to do as little harm as you possibly can. Now, we have no way of getting around eating plants. And plants don't have consciousness and elaborate thoughts the way that animals do. They don't feel pain the way that we do. When you cut a plant off of the stem or whatever, when you pull a plant out of the ground, it doesn't start screaming in agony. But even something as simple as a mollusk can obviously suffer. Just because they don't have elaborate thoughts like we do doesn't mean they can't suffer. And plants, don't really suffer that much. And even so, we don't have a way to get around eating plants. We have a way to get around eating animals. So if you think that, well, maybe a plant can suffer, so it doesn't matter if I eat a cow. That's a really stupid way to think about veganism. It's about doing as little harm as you possibly can. If you can do no harm to animals on purpose, then do it. Do it! Nothing's stopping you. The whole idea that just because maybe plants can suffer, we should eat animals too, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Because that's like saying, oh, when I cut my grass, maybe the grass suffers, so I might as well stab my grandma. Really? Really? I mean, come on. When we harvest crops, there are casualties. I mean, field mice get sucked up into the blades and they die, and there's, dead mice in the grains that we harvest. What's the difference between accidentally killing a field mouse and on purpose enslaving and killing billions upon billions upon billions of animals every single year for our own selfish benefit when we don't have to? What's the difference between accidentally stepping on an ant and purposefully going to your neighbor's house and shooting his dog in the face? The difference between us and other animals is that we're able to remove our instincts from the way that we live our lives. And other animals don't really tend to do that often. Because when we see a hot girl walking down the street, and you get a boner because you see the hot girl walking down the street, you can make the conscious decision not to just go up and start fucking her. And animals don't do that. Animals don't have that choice. But when you see that hot girl walking down the street and you instantly get a boner because you see that girl, that's an instinctive impulse. So, at that point, you're acting on instinct, you're acting on impulse, you're acting on reflex. So, what's the difference between your boner and a shrimp running away because something scared it? At that point, you're no different from a shrimp. You're acting on impulse just like the shrimp. When you remove yourself from your primal instincts and your reptilian brain, and you realize that fundamentally, we're all the same. We're all animals. And there's no reason for me to be selfish. Because being selfish is a primal instinct. It's a way of survival. We don't need to survive anymore. We have supermarkets. We have cars. We can just go to the store and we can choose to buy carrots instead of ham. Not only that, but we can choose to buy the vegan ham that tastes exactly like real ham. When you really think about it, and you remove yourself from those primal instincts to survive, you realize that the arbitrary line that we place between different species is nothing more than arbitrary. And just because we as humans feel that another species is more important than another one or whatever, that doesn't make it true. And it's very selfish of us to think that way. And just because vegans aren't perfect, just because we may accidentally step on bugs, just because we may accidentally suck up a few field mice when we harvest our vegetables, doesn't mean that it's okay to purposefully kill and enslave animals for our own benefit. Because there's a big difference between accidentally hitting a raccoon on the side of the road and shooting your neighbor's dog in the face on purpose. Okay, I think I said everything I wanted to say. Again, I'm very passionate about that, but I'm, again, not trying to force anybody to think the way that I am. I had a lot of thoughts that surfaced during that conversation that I've never really taken into consideration myself before, and it really pushed me to be able to explain all of that better. So I thought I would just try to repeat myself in a video, because I thought maybe you guys might want to hear my thoughts. But yeah, so please don't take this as me trying to convert you or anything. I just really wanted to get my thoughts out of the way. If you have any thoughts or comments or whatever, just let me know. On my other channel, The Rat Guru, the first episode of my revised Ratipedia thing will be airing this coming Wednesday. So keep an eye out for that, because that's going to be a good time. I'm still working on the videos. I'm kind of about in the middle right now. I'm almost halfway through. So I think pretty soon I should have them all done, and then I can just relax and take a load off and not have to edit videos for a while. I'm gonna go now. You're probably tired of hearing me talk, so I'll see you guys later. Bye.